If you're watching it as a recording, you can easily email us and if you have more questions on this. So I will go fast through the host. Mainly it's me and Shemek. Shemek is working a lot with ABM. He's leading the team here. And I am more like a sales guy in a marketing body. But our special guests, the superstars of the superstars, are Alex, who is in enterprise sales. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about you, Alex, just because you are the HubSpot face.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for inviting me here over, Romeo. Again, Alex. I'm half Bulgarian, half Russian, and my background is predominantly in marketing and sales for the past many years. So definitely, what I'm interested in today is sharing a bit more about where ABM is going, or what are the trends, and what is the required amount of technical and maybe just general expertise needed for you to jump into it. It shouldn't be just a high level word that you use in your company, but something that you should be considering very thoroughly and approaching it with thought behind it. And actually, from my background working with startups, it doesn't require you to be a large enterprise company to jump into it and start thinking about it. So just don't be afraid if you think that we're going to be talking about things that only large companies can do. No, not at all. It's also something that you, as a maybe just a startup right now, can already start considering your setup for success in the future. Background, as I mentioned, sales, marketing. I worked at Google for some years, and now here at enterprise sales.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Patrick is our architect in all this marketing automation, worked in NetGuru, now head of growth in Cervicate, and also helping us as a consultant in Man Digital. Patrick, if you have a few words you want to share with us before we jump in.
Nothing special. Just happy to be here. Hope
Great.
can share some good knowledge.
Cool. Thanks a lot. So, Shemek, you can share the screen now.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So what we will do now is that Shemek and Patrick will give us few of the knowledge. But if you again have questions, please put them into the live streaming comments and also in Zoom here. And we will, at the end of each chapters, Alex, pick your brain a little bit on what's in the market, how you see it as HubSpot, so on and so forth, or put your 5 cents to it mainly. And then we have a few questions. Is that cool?
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Mike is your option.
Cool. Thank you, guys. So we will start with basically the foundations of the foundations for the HubSpot and the infrastructure. And then we will go really deep into ABM because we believe also that the foundations for general stack and marketing and sales alignment is something you should always start with. And then think later on about the ABM as well. Like, it takes time for sure to bring the operational excellence. And I also, at the beginning, usually when you start with technology, with the infrastructure, CRMs, it's a chaos. And what I see is oftentimes that the execution drives the strategy. So you can predict, you can plan, you can have a lot, but at the end, the moment you start actually executing, this shows you and you are able to iterate. So this is really where first this 5 to 6 months, we see when any kind of a tech stack comes in, there's a lot of challenges. And when it comes to the marketing and sales and HubSpot in general, we usually think about the strategy at the beginning. So there is, for example, unclear lead flow. Marketing and sales processes are not aligned. They work in silos. Data is there, but it's not actually accurate. You measure probably too much data, focusing on vanity metrics. And basically the success metrics, what really matters for your business is not that really known, the drivers, or it's not even tracked. And then the other thing that we see is usually all the lead generation comes a little bit from B2C angle where leads are the main metric. And in B2B, we of course mostly care about the company. So this is the first problem, that most of the systems are actually built around contacts, not the companies, which is also a first challenge for the ABM. So this is the first stage, right? Then the second stage is usually the efficiency. So first, when you have any kind of a strategy and you understand how you would like to work, the problem comes in that you have the strategy and the processes, but people don't have the habits, right? So they don't follow all the procedures. And once again, you come up with these challenges. Okay, marketing and sales, you have the idea what they should do, but they are not filling out the data. There is no integrity monitoring process. So even though you should store the data, like no one's actually tracking this, and then you cannot trust it. So sales or marketing cannot rely on the system. SLAs are not being fulfilled. So companies are assigned, but no one is actually taking care of them, or automations are not reliable, or it's just lacking because you could dig some gaps with some automations. So this data is actually infrastructure is not used to its full potential because there are plenty of functionalities and it's hard to get with everything at the beginning. And there is also no consistency in reporting and reacting to this. So there is no clear weekly or a monthly process to keep the things going or reacting to what's not working. You usually just every quarter you try to check out if the systems are working well or not. And it's a big struggle to forecast, to set the goals and track it because data is a bit flowing. So this is the second stage we usually see. And then the third stage where you actually have this strategy, you have the efficiency, and now you start thinking about getting much more insights and growing with the infrastructure. You try to analyze what are the source, right? And what's the best revenue channel. And the attribution turns out to be really hard because the interactions are pretty complex. And you are facing some functionalities limitations. It turns out that, okay, you would like to track something, you know it, but it's just hard to set it up. Or there is need for additional integrations. You need to connect some additional tools. Our messaging maybe is not that relevant as we would like to be. We are spamming people. We are using the tool, but maybe we are not so smart as we would like. And the full cycle experience for the customers is just hard, from the prospect to the customers, to keep the communication and craft different content for these people is just really hard to do. And controlling large teams ain't easy also, and keeps the things in order. Yeah, so those are basically the challenges we also see at this third stage, more or less after a year of implementing the new tech stack. So just to give you a glimpse, and now just to see it also in practice, right? What does it really mean? So for example, it's contacts, right? Like you have 57 new contacts, but actually you have 40 companies qualified. What does the contact say to us? Not much. In B2B, we care about the companies. You have the life cycles and stages and need status data. You have some maybe MQLs that became an MQL in certain dates, but there is no clear idea about lead status. So you don't know what actually is happening with those leads, or are they being qualified by someone? Are they being worked upon someone? It's hard to tell. Then you probably have some gaps in the data, right? Because there is no values like country, life cycle, lead status, type of the company, and you cannot rely on the data. So data is there, but it's just not accurate. So what turns out to happening is that you just sometimes calculate through Excels, or you export data, you try to combine it, and it's just a struggle. And one of the researchers, right, it says that the best top performing salespeople actually have a higher confidence level in their CRM data than the other that doesn't have these good results. So having a really accurate data and a really good flow model is really essential to have a good result in sales as well. And what is also a thing that we oftentimes see, right? People try to do a sales cycle, right? A funnel, to build a funnel. But oftentimes it is that the sales doesn't work so easy as B2C. Like the cycles can last for years, and the sales can just bring a lead from the event and just set it as an opportunity. So you would need to go through all the life cycle stages, click it through, so you have the whole funnel, right? So this is a bit struggle. And you can do SLAs that you have to go through a whole pipeline, or you have to do something special to make sure that each of the contact goes through the full cycle, but it's just not easy. And this is super insightful also screenshot, right? Those are, let's just look at that a bit thoroughly. August 2020. So the companies that were actually acquired in this month. And then you have a close date for the deals. So the deals were closed throughout 2 or 3 years. Even some of these were before because they were uploaded, some of the accounts. So basically you've been working under the same accounts you acquired through one source in August 2020 over 2 or 3 years. And then you try to build funnels and attribution around this. And going to this attribution, we still try to track and give precise answers. Where are these companies from? What's the funnel? Which is really just a different game in B2B at the end. But we will tell a bit more in a second. So you ask, right, what source speaks most return on investment? And you build reports like, booked by source. You also try to understand the interaction source. So what is direct traffic, organic? Should we go more for ads or not really? Then you maybe have some interaction types. Is it form submitted, or maybe page views, which is from, but what actually do I do about this data? Is it actionable? Can I do something about it? If we have a little bit different point of view on these kind of reports and tracking of the source, which we'll be telling in a second, because this is, for example, the path from one of our clients. So it's a webinar, page view, apps click, email, page view, webinar, email, marketing, sales, once again, webinar meeting, like 20 touch points or even more. And then you ask yourself, show me this from this first webinar that he came in, right? And then you try to build attribution or you return investment from such an actions, right? Or you say, we don't need new website because it's hard to justify the cost, but maybe this actually page view made a whole difference in the whole journey of this person. So the attribution and tracking is a really big thing. And those are a lot of challenges that we see that is happening with the tech stack in the market. And we will tackle how we solve it. What's our idea to structure this all things and go through this chaos to efficiency towards the growth. But now probably, and you have a lot of dashboards, right? Like each of the departments create different dashboards, custom dashboards for whatever reason they need to track this or that. And this becomes a big trouble to actually see what is their priority.
Alex, before we go to Patrick, I just wanted to understand a little bit from what do you see as a trend and as a challenges when it comes to enterprise sales, especially that you work a lot with these kind of bigger companies. What do they have these challenges, or is the same only with out of the box smaller companies, or how do you see?
I actually saw that a lot of relevant points were already mentioned, such as not thinking about the strategy early enough, not mapping out accounts, which I think is a tough problem currently being faced by a lot of companies. So what I mean by that is you're going to have at times several salespeople working with contacts within one company. And that is unconnected between each salesperson because of the fact that they haven't done a good job at mapping the accounts. So for example, you're going to have even sometimes the same lead using different emails, signing up for forms, webinars as well. And you're going to have several salespeople being attributed to that sales contact. Thus, they're going to have different communication, potentially even talking to that customer with different language and possibly sending different things. This is the disorganization that I'm seeing as a challenge currently. So not spending enough time with tools that are already available on the market. Even Sales Navigator is one of them, allowing you to just have a better view. Who are the decision makers? How are they positioned within the org chart in the company? And then based on that, once those leads start coming in, better mapping out them within the company's account. Like already mentioned, B2C, B2B, one focusing on contacts, one focusing on companies here. Really the stress is on all the decision makers within that organization, considering it's a long sales cycle with B2B, considering there's going to be multiple people that are going to be talking to you and potentially talking not only to you, but also other people in the organization. You've got to have a very good understanding how those buyers personas are positioned in the company. You have to target them appropriately with the right content. And I think this is what a trend is, not only with big, but also small companies, just spending a lot of time figuring out, okay, workflows, okay, something else, but not enough time understanding who are they going to be positioning what within that company.
Cool. I suppose some technical issues on Rima's side is, let me check. Do you guys hear me well? Okay, cool. So let's just see, I have some. Cool. So just to tackle back from what you're saying, Alex, is that companies probably spend a lot of time in like this on the surface, and they never try to what's beyond that, to really understand. They just have some basic hypothesis. They would like to set up a meeting, but no one really tries to understand deeply about the matching between the companies, the value we can give, and the reason why we should actually talk to them, and to whom should we talk and interact with.
Absolutely, at each stage. And you also showed on the slide, for example, that consideration whether or not a new website is needed. I think that all comes down to being driven by data and connecting those steps in the process to the movement of a deal through the pipeline as well. So if you understand that actually that website visit was at a time when the deal was moved to a more important stage, call it, or the next stage, then you would have better understanding that that is something crucial in the process. Thus, maybe more time on the website needs to be, and more attention to the website needs to be paid as well. But I also liked what you mentioned for the SLAs. I do find that a lot of companies are creating those, and then their reporting goes into a mess just because there is an agreement to follow up within certain time, to write something as an email, or call a person and say a few particular things. And that rarely gets followed just because a lot of salespeople just take that on themselves. And I think their approach would be better. So if you create that within your organization, have some regular check-ins of how often people are doing it according to that SLA as well.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Alex. Sorry, I would disappear. There is no good webinar if the internet doesn't go down, obviously. So, Patrick, feel free to share the screen and
Yeah, okay, let's go back a little on the attribution topic. I was doing attribution stuff for a few years already, and it's only been a frustrating experience, to be honest, because attribution in B2B especially is something which is not solved at all. But the question when you do your business, you spend a lot of money for all the different things. And the big question is, what really did matter in the customer journey? So you have contacts who visited 10 pages, got 5 marketing email sequences, attended 2 webinars, got sales in. And the question always is, which touch point was more important and which one is responsible for bringing the business? Is it the early touch point or maybe late one closer to the sale? Was it online or offline? Is emailing people better than hosting webinars? Because all of these things have the same value, right? And you have the existing software, which gives you classic attribution models like first touch, last touch, or linear model, time decay, whatever you can figure out. It's there. But in my opinion, they never really work that well for B2B, mainly because these are perceived and they actually are black boxes. And when you do stuff like you do business with people, when you have the black box, you will never trust it. If you can take the models from e-commerce, which is easy because it's very simple path for one user. But let's say in B2B, you have one account with few timelines for different contacts. And let's say you have activity timeline for CEO and CFO from the same account. And whose page views were more important in this customer journey? Okay, is CEO page view 2 times or maybe 1.6 times more important than CFO's page views? You never know. It's impossible to know such things. And there is no true attribution model. And especially with B2B, we have multiple stakeholders converting over many months and sometimes even years. So it's not easy. It would be nice if we would have attribution models simple like in e-commerce, but unfortunately we chose our careers here in B2B and we did it to ourselves and we have to endure the pain all the time. So my take on attribution is to actually let go of trying to reach this objective truth. What is first, what is original is the best one. You just need to create your own attribution based on intuition and your experience in the business and your industry, because it may differ from company to company. Even direct competitors can do sales a little differently, and the same attribution won't work for 2 similar companies. What I always strive for is to do weighted attribution model. So you just assign weights to the sources. So let me explain it quickly. For example, if you want to measure the influence of campaign X, and let's take the customer journey Przemek showed before when you have 10 page views, different webinars, emails, etc. So they have not the same value, right? Page view is not that important comparing to webinar, attending the webinar or going to the sales call. I would assign arbitrary values to each touchpoint type. So for example, let's assign page view 1 point to page view. Email, it's worth 2 points. Sales call is worth 5 points. And over the whole customer journey, you just sum up all the touchpoint values. Let's say over the course of the conversion, you have 40 points total from all these touch points. And you have 3 page views from campaign X. So 3 of those pages are worth 1 point each, which is 3 points total.
Stuff because I think because it was not showing the table.
So
that's why.
Sorry, I was just forgetting to change the slide. So you have the page views, which are worth like your arbitrary number, and you know that out of these 40 total points, which sum up to all the attribution, so let's say 3 of them were from the campaign X, and out of 40, this is like 7.5%. Very simple, very easy to understand, not a black box. Not true at all, because there's no such thing as true attribution model. but maybe it's different for you. Maybe page views are not worth at all, or maybe they are worth much more than 1 point compared to 5 points per sales call. So you have to come up with your own weights based on your experience. So let's say these page views over the course of customer journey were worth 7.5% of total attribution. And let's assume that you had the revenue from the account 100K. 7.5% of 100K is 7.5Ks, right? Doesn't matter the currency, let's say dollars. So, simple question. If we assume that campaign X just made us 7.5K dollars, and did it cost us more or less than that? Because if we ran the campaign for cheaper, I think we can assume that this is actually positive ROI. And compared to like typical attribution models like first touch or linear model where, let's say, only first interaction takes the 100% of the attribution, all the 100K dollars is attributed to first touch point, or maybe all of them at the same percentage. So nobody will ever agree on that, because you just started conflict between sales and marketing, and everybody will claim their part is actually more valuable. So when we actually agree on the weights, okay, so sales call, we all between marketing and sales agree this is 5-10 times more important than usual page view. You just agree on that, and you actually know how the attribution model is right now, and it stopped being a black box, and everyone can actually trust it because everyone knows the numbers behind it. And trusting your data in analytics is extremely important, because if people don't trust your data, you just show the report and everybody will ignore it, because there's always a reason to not trust it and think, I know better. Yeah, this is like one approach to do attribution modeling. I find it very interesting in B2B companies because there is no other actually official way of doing it. This is my take on it. You can agree, you cannot. I think it's much better than classic first touch or last touch attribution. But not everything can be actually attributed. We have what is called dark social, which may, sound frightening, but it's simply this dark social are things happening online which we do not know about, and we are not able to measure them. These might be your brand campaigns on social media. So people might see your branding advertisement, your branding campaigns. They don't have to interact with them. They don't have to click it. They just have to see and scroll through it. And this certainly influences buying decisions, but you cannot prove it with numbers in any way. And if you actually trust your attribution model 100%, you will end up disabling the branding campaigns, turning them off. And this could actually hurt your business, because you stop campaigns which work, but you cannot directly prove it. You just lose money, and you will see it after 1 year. 1 year later, you will see that, okay, revenue is not growing as fast as before, and you don't even know what happened because it was so long time ago.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in this. It's sometimes also referred as the dark funnel, because in Man Digital, what we do, it's mainly build up these kind of thought leadership content and brand campaigns, which you cannot and you will not be able to measure, because if you are going into this part of tracking, and I understand that majority of the startups and the tech industry is into this control mode, right? Like they need to check each and every step, each and every click, and everything that your customer does. And they believe that if they track, then the control is there. But on the other side, there is the emotional part of it that cannot be seen. That means Slack communities, revenue collectives, peer-to-peer referrals, any kind of social branding campaigns or sharing between each other. So these things build up that momentum where companies come to you and say, okay, guys, we would like to hear a little bit more. Maybe Alex, you have some more on this attribution problem before.
Yes. I've chatted with multiple different marketing managers who are struggling with that, struggling to prove their ROI on what they're doing. And actually in front of the board where other executives just say that all these white papers and then different kind of case studies that we're creating, yes, they're not click to payment link directly.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But I think it's a very curious case. People are forgetting they're humans. In the end of the day, those executives themselves, they are going online. They are reading those case studies maybe for things they're looking to buy themselves and purchase software or something else. But once they enter their office and start tracking their own work, they're like, this is not working. This is not how we're going to be doing things. I cannot track whether or not it's going to bring me money. But considering how they're doing it on their own. So probably just going back to your roots and thinking about your own way of purchasing tech, your own way of purchasing software, and understanding that you are doing those things along your purchase path. So maybe just put a bit more trust in your marketing department. And you don't want to end up in the situation that Patrick mentioned already, that 1 year down the line, you've canceled all those extracurriculum projects, call them, and then you notice that the revenue isn't there because it's going to take you more time now to get back on track because competition has jumped into that space and they have created the content that you haven't. So most likely you're going to be struggling competing for the keywords, competing for the same positions in organic as well. Yeah, there is a piece of darkness there. I wouldn't call it money wasted, like from opinion of sales leaders, but definitely a bit of trust in marketing is required and not always a table, a report can prove the money that it brought. So it's just about knowing how you yourself are doing the whole purchase path and knowing that it is actually the case that this is how it's done.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there is a saying in statistics that all models are wrong, but some are useful. So you just have to use all those things, all the analytics stuff, attribution models, machine learning, which is completely black box, which is understood by one or two persons in the company. So these are all the guidelines, and you should never trust them 100%. And actually, when it comes to attribution, what's often being forgotten that it doesn't show you only what works, but it's easier to find out what doesn't work. So let's say you have the campaign which generated 1,000 leads over some time, and whatever model you choose, none of those leads ever converted to qualified. So there is no results at all from the given campaign. The campaign you can track, let's say search campaigns, right? So it can tell you what doesn't work. You don't know what works, but you can definitely see what doesn't work. And this is why attribution is important to actually discover things which are not working, because it looks nice to have 1,000 new leads, but when nothing happens with them for many months, it doesn't matter. You just wasted money because this is something you could be proving because there is a data here. This is like search engine campaign, which is well tracked. And then nothing comes out of it. And you have a big pile of leads, which is 1,000. This is statistically like truth, and there is no results. So this is the time to cut something, right? But the software is software. But HubSpot and other marketing automation CRM tools are only. So there is a big push in the marketing of marketing technology tools that they will solve everything when it comes to your company. But the truth is, they just let you scale your business. So marketing didn't really change from the ways of Don Draper and all these guys. You all need people who know about people, know marketing, know how to do it. And the marketing automation and marketing technology tools they took the jobs of admin people who were ordering advertising in newspapers. Somebody had to do it. Right now, software does it for you. But you need to know what you are doing as a team, and you just need to have working marketing strategy, working marketing team, and everything has to work. And the only thing tools are doing is to help you scale and do it more efficiently. Yeah, so it won't ever do the job for you. And there's one big thing which is always happening with companies implementing those tools, that you have the existing tool, you have the existing team, and you just smack them with the new software and tell them to start using it, and then it never works out because you just gave the typical marketing people the admin work to do. And you still need somebody to do the admin work in marketing. And right now, there's a fancy name for this person, and it's called marketing operations specialist. And when you have the typical marketing team, which is very non-technical, and the world has changed, you won't change it, you have marketing technology everywhere, and you need to be technical as a team. So you need someone to understand how actually marketing technology works, how to move around in this area, how to be effective. And it's always marketing operations specialist, MOPS in short, very nice name. And this is a person who is a marketer, first of all, because it's all doing the work for marketing teams, for sales teams. And you can have, let's say, you take the developer who is technical. This person can handle marketing automation, marketing technology tools, and tell them to, okay, the tool, go work with the marketing team. It will never work because they don't know the marketing world and they don't know how it works, because MOPS people are assisting marketing teams and they just need to know how everything works. Simple as that. And the MOPS has to be good communicator, because when you work with people, and this is like by definition very not precise, and you need someone who actually can translate what people are thinking and what people need. Because when you actually talk with marketing people, they don't really know what they need. They are not aware of the options available for them because they don't know the tools. They don't know the tooling. They don't know the technology. They have no idea what can be or cannot be automated. So one of the role of MOPS is to pull it out from them, pull the knowledge, and actually translate these business requirements to defined steps, because MOPS creates a process. Everything is a process. And what you need here is analytical mind. You need somebody who can see the process from the beginning to an end. And processes have to be very well defined, because this is something which you're doing something which is assisted by machines. And machines are completely they absolutely stupid. They don't think at all. The machine will do exactly what you tell it to do. And if you give the bad instructions, you will not get results. So you need a person who has analytical mind, who can define the process, translate the process from people language to machine language in very defined way. And this person have to account for multiple edge cases. It has to account for multiple branches. You have if else, and it goes on for long time sometimes. And so you need someone who won't get lost. So someone who will be able to handle all the complicated logic of running the business and running the marketing team. And of course, MOPS has to be technical, reasonably technical. You don't need a developer. This is something which is working in the interface. You don't write code most of the time. You just need someone who is curious, who is not afraid of the computers, a person who doesn't freeze when they see an unfamiliar error window, so they just dig deeper and find out the cause of the error. And there are not many MOPS people around in the world. You will probably have to teach someone from the ground up, and it's possible. I did it. She is killing it now somewhere in the world abroad. Yeah, it's possible. And yeah, I think this is the profile of the person you need when you go deep into the marketing technology, because you need someone to do the admin work. And it's just a fancy name for the marketing administrator. And I think Przemek can take over from here.
If I can just jump in on what you just mentioned,
Yeah.
Patrick. So I definitely can agree with the fact that the MOPS type of person, the role is super necessary currently. We couldn't exclude the fact that salespeople nowadays need to know marketing. So in order for them to understand why they have to submit certain data back to marketing after a campaign has been completed, in order for them to understand and give feedback regarding how a webinar brought or didn't bring any leads, they need to understand how does that fit in the whole process. And therefore, this MOPS person maybe has also the role for themselves to not only connect and translate marketing to sales, but also sales to marketing and educate sales in why this is important for them. And this person also should be a champion. If you are integrating any type of new software and it comes top down, so just an executive says we're going to do that, and then nobody within the company is championing that process, nobody is really standing behind it and believing in it, most likely you're going to end up in a situation of just paying a subscription for a software that's not 100% utilized. And eventually you might just churn and not even use it at all. So definitely an important factor to keep in mind. And yeah, from what I noticed in a couple of companies that I've talked to over the past year, this role is becoming more and more important just because marketing is entering way down in the funnel. So a lot of the things that they're doing are just almost at the end, just before purchase. And therefore, a salesperson not being aware of how those connect with what they're doing most likely ends up in a situation where sales does one thing and marketing does a completely different process because of their perception that it would help or not.
Excellent, Alex.
Great stuff. So I continue on this. Actually, this will be also connected to this alignment between marketing and sales. And I will also tackle once again what Patrick was saying, right? When you look at these all blogs or articles or white papers about why you should go for the digital tools, it says your digital marketing data is not organized. You can generate more leads, your lack of lead conversion. You want to generate more revenue. Communication is dead between sales. They say that there are reasons why you should actually go. And for us, it's completely bullshit, right? You just can reach maybe more people with fewer resources, but you have to have currently the strategy. And if you are not well defined within your organization about the processes, how your marketing and sales works, like going to HubSpot or any other tool will not solve the problem at all. So what we focus here is on the essentials now that we believe it's a foundation to actually have the infrastructure make any sense. So first of all is this lead models. And we believe that currently it's just broken how this linear model is working, right? We try to push our, as in this attribution, right? We try to squeeze the companies into a funnel that goes from A to B, and it's throughout the 3 months, for example, and they don't come back to a certain moment, right? They don't suddenly, maybe they are less interested in few moments, and we don't take it at all into an account. And it's just not that they buy in straight. What we really see that has a big value is that we treat it as a whole cycle. And this is the model that comes from this funnel cake with Drift that they presented. And what I also want to say is it's same as the attribution. There is no one model that will work for the sales and marketing processes. Like each leader will probably have their own idea. So what I will present now is something that we believe that works for sure for us as Man Digital. And we believe that it could work for a lot of B2B businesses, but always we have to also customize it because the logic behind the leaders is just different, what they look for. And none of these is better or worse, right? You just have to keep some consistency in the way you are analyzing the data. So this is the model that we really believe it's well accurate for aligning both marketing and sales. So it's simple as that, right? You just have a raw leads or companies that comes into your database, but they aren't ready to be approached by the sales representatives. You just assign the companies that we believe that are the ones that should be approached by the sales representatives. And here it's a thing that oftentimes companies try to understand is, did we connect it? Did they the follow up? Or do they have a response? From our perspective, we don't care at all. What we care is that we assign some company to a sales representative. And the question is how fast he will pick it up to start working to qualify them. And then we know, okay, they are working over these companies and they try to qualify, which means they are ready to buy right now with them. And who cares if they do it for LinkedIn, if they do it for email, if they follow up, this or that. I just care about how many companies took responsibility for as a working that you actually qualified, right? And I just care about that. And I give you all the freedom in the middle between. And then are these, of course, qualified, which is ready to buy now, unqualified will never be, and nurture. So maybe they are not ready right now, or we approached many times. And according to SLA, for example, we tried for 2 weeks and it just didn't work. So we put them into the nurture or pipeline or what. So what happens actually with all these marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads, you may ask, right? Because it's HubSpot also have this as a default and you cannot change it. And it's actually really useful. And that's the beauty when you combine life cycle stages with lead statuses. A lot of data, don't worry, just look at these two lines at the top. So what kind of information gives us the life cycle stage? it's an interesting linear model where you can understand at what stage, like how far did you go with your relationship with the prospect, right? Is it lead? So we actually didn't have any kind of interactions. Maybe it was marketing qualified lead. We tried to approach them, sales qualified lead. They were in the discussions, or maybe there was some opportunity. But this just gives you actually how far maybe you did go, depending on how you define the life cycle stages. But it doesn't give you any kind of information what's happening with this particular prospect, right? So what you can do is you have these lead status that tells you either is this company assigned, currently working, or maybe to nurture. And while you go to nurture, you can see, okay, I've lost some customers from each stage, and I can connect to them in different way because I understand that they are in nurture, but they are from different stages of the sales cycle, or currently they are in a different stage. And what's the beauty, right? Whatever you can see that these people are in nurture and they presented some kind of a behavior that gives you an idea that, okay, they might be ready now again to be approached by the sales, you just assign them. And the sales know at which stage did this company eventually end up. And then what you need to also understand is this lead version companies. So what we do is we really synchronize the contacts between companies. So the model looks like the highest lifecycle stage or lead status from the contact is inherited by the company. So with the data tracking, we just track companies, right? So how many companies did I qualify? How many companies were assigned? We don't care so much about the contacts below because it's just, we have 20 or 30 contacts under one company that are maybe, in the sales discussion, but it just gives the vanity metrics. So now a practical model, how simple this model is, but really powerful. So you can have the raw companies, right? So it means that just the companies that are available in your database to be approached for, then assigned. So you currently know at this moment how many companies are being assigned, and you can check for sure, for example, for which kind of representatives. Then the working, how many companies we try to approach right now and qualified in the pipeline. You can say, okay, this is in the sales process, and then the nurture. So from the nurture, you can see, okay, I can see that I still can work on these accounts because we tried to do something with them, but it didn't work, but I can come back to them and try to qualify once again. Or maybe I just leave them and I work on more raw companies where I need maybe to do some campaign because I'm lucky new companies in the pipeline. So depending on the way how you want to approach it, you can clearly have these two buckets, right? Current database, new companies, the nurture one that you can get back to, or you can think about completely and acquiring new database. So you also need accurate data. So what it's simple to just have it is that in each stage that you have to, for example, have some fields filled out. So then you can actually know that, okay, in a certain stage, I will know something about this company and it has to be filled out. And then you can use some data tracking dashboards. So for example, if we really care about life cycle stages, lead statuses, buying roles, same as you said, Alex, right? If you really need the personas to be filled out on a certain stage, you can track how many of these are actually filled out, and this marketing operations person can get back to the team and ask for filling it out. And then, the last thing that aside the lead flow plus the data to data accuracy, there is this tracking and reporting. So what are actually these business drivers to track? From our Man Digital perspective, as we discussed, we basically just track executive. So we just track strategic annual goals, volume, value, and efficiency. Because going into all these other vanity metrics, just as Patrick said, gives us insights about how to align into this, but we don't need to go into all of this data and constantly try to look for answers there because the answers will not probably be there. But if you want to, you can also, go for area tracking or individual tracking. And soon we will talk about the custom reporting, which is, for example, ABM. So you can separate certain accounts and just track it in an isolated way so we can clearly see the return on investment, and it makes it much easier to track it. But for more info, so here you can also see that, if you just track count of companies that came into your in a certain period, how many you qualified in this period and closed, it's just simple as that. And sometimes you don't need so many details. You can connect goals with representative results in a quick snap, which is high level executive metric. And you can compare this leading KPI. So for example, how many companies we qualified and how many pipeline did we generate? So we see that you should move more from value metrics to value metrics from these volume metrics, which we believe is the way to go. But more about specific stuff, you can also hear from Patrick and his experience.
Yeah, so let me share. I will share.
Please go on.
Very quick points. You should be able to see it. And what is a good KPI to measure? I think there are three main properties of it. First one, they measure over time. If you set your KPI, it can only be achieved once. It won't work because you need to actually see month to month, quarter to quarter, or year to year, the difference between all the values. So you can actually see if you're doing a good job. So for example, organizing an event is not a good KPI, but increasing qualified leads from events by 10%. This is something you can actually track over time when you do events well. And these KPIs should actually measure things that matter. So number of leads do not increase business health if the leads are bad, and all of them will end up unqualified. But when you measure number of qualified leads, this is something which directly influences business health and actually improves your business. And the next one, actually your goals and your KPIs should improve end result. So in my opinion, end result is always revenue because companies exist to make money. Some say they don't, but they usually don't last long if they don't make money. Your goals should be chosen so reaching them improves your end result. And if they don't, what's the point actually? And you need to measure actually things which make sense. I would avoid situations like we need to define 5 KPIs this quarter. And when you only have 3 KPIs which actually make sense, sorry for the guy, sit please. And if when you only have 3 KPIs which make sense, do not come up with 2 more if they are useless, right? So in the end, all KPIs should be chosen with care and be consistent with KPI definitions, because when you change rules over time, let's say if you change the definition of qualified lead in your business quarter to quarter, you cannot actually measure how it changes over time because the numbers will be all wacky, all over the place because the definition changes. And I have experienced the mistake of changing SQL definition over time, and it was very painful because we didn't actually see month over month if we actually did a good job, because the numbers were, it was a good job because the numbers were falling, but we got better leads. But in the end, sometimes in some quarters, we got less revenue from the same amount of leads. And we actually never knew until it was a few months too late and we had to fix our stuff backwards in time. And yeah, it brought us a lot of pain. Be very careful what you choose to track, because what you actually measure always ends up becoming your goal, because you should never work on things which are not measured because it doesn't make sense. It will get you fired in the end. But yeah, choose your KPIs with care.
Thanks, man. A lot of stuff here, huh? What do you think about this HubSpot partner you guys have?
So great stuff indeed. I cannot disagree more with what Patrick mentioned. Just focus on what you can measure, not what you think does the job, and also compare apples to apples. So believing from what I'm seeing is more and more businesses have to adopt the startup mentality where you do something, you have the right KPIs in place for you to track your progress, and then you make a decision on whether or not that works. You shouldn't be afraid to fail. What maybe I missed, maybe I didn't hear, was from all the attribution models that we were discussing, all of them ended up at the point of winning a deal. Whereas I think what currently maybe is missing in a lot of organizations is that retrospective view of what happened. Why did we actually win? We always want to tap ourselves on the shoulder and say we did a good job when we got the money in the bank. But in reality, there needs to be this kind of sessions. And I've been doing those as well in the past. So generally, have a session of why did you actually win those deals? Maybe focus on the bigger ones if you would like to start with something more simple, and then just go back through all the steps. And if you notice that maybe within the defined KPIs, there were things that were not actually there and were not done, or maybe you think they actually influenced the deal, but in the end, it turns out that your salesperson just had a coffee over somewhere outside of the office with a potential decision maker. Just have those retrospective sessions to also go back and define your attribution model. So yes, it has to be data driven. Yes, I totally agree with the putting weights on the different steps. But in the end, also go back and see this deal closed because of a couple of other factors that may have not been considered throughout the process. I don't know how you guys think about it, but definitely not enough companies are doing the why did we actually win. They always look at why did we lose, and yeah, that works great. So you don't waste too much money on campaigns that are not bringing you qualified leads. But not enough are thinking, okay, we got this deal in, but is it just because the company liked us? Is it because of something else?
You're taking over. There is some few more things here.
Will be quite fast, I believe now, just to leave time for question and answers. So basically, what we wanted to say is that you need to have the strategy, you need to be efficient and be able to track and understand the right metrics. So automations and all these tools just helps you to actually achieve and improve that, make it efficient, but they will not do the job for you at the end. And all these challenges that we were talking about are actually really solved oftentimes by this ABM approach. So this is what I would like to show in a second. But from the bonus, if you would be interested in lead flow framework or this marketing sales SLAs frameworks that we use, or properties management to make sure that you have all the data, feel free to outreach to us, or maybe you can say in the chat that you would like to receive this kind of documents. We are happy to send it out to you. So how to embed this ABM in HubSpot, and how does it connect to this, what we said before? So marketing and sales working on same target accounts makes everything much easier, right? Because you have a set of accounts, and whatever you do is actually to qualify these accounts. So it's super easy to measure because you can account all of these activities under one roof that brought actually the results for these target accounts. So in HubSpot, it gives you simple reporting. You can always see how much did you actually get the revenue for these certain accounts, and all these activities, both from marketing and sales, that were connected to this. You can also understand clearly, okay, we have certain target accounts, what the status of each, how are we progressing? It's super easy to measure. Then how many did we generate the pipeline value across months for these specific, and eventually also the volume. If you really want to, you can see the volumes, and you can connect it between new business and existing business, because it doesn't have to be just for the new business, for the new clients. It could also be a certain type of a segment, industry, or types of customers you want to focus, and they can be both from internal new business and existing business. And here it actually starts to make sense, right? Like from the context of ABM, account-based marketing, certain accounts, we don't have any relationships with them. Actually understanding what kind of contacts did we acquire within those companies that we believe are our target. So they are already somehow qualified for marketing, right? Because they are, we want to approach them. We believe we can do business with them. Then it makes sense for you to understand that I got this many decision makers, champions within those organizations along the months. You can also see, for example, how do we interact with these companies when it comes to the size? So do we actually interact with this tier one, the biggest companies, maybe tier two or tier three? And once again, the beauty of these lead statuses, right? You can easily say that from the biggest companies that I wanted to acquire, I have this many that are one, this many that are doing the pipeline. Currently, we're working at them. So it's not a linear, it's not one shot that we do in a few months and then we build a funnel. You can build a funnel, but it's a cycle. So I really like how it can be easily tackled with ABM. And then page views. You can also see, okay, who are actually these companies that are actively looking for us? And you can once again just break it down by lead status, so you can see that the companies you are working on have a high views. So maybe I should tackle, like I should outreach to them. And it's much just measuring page views doesn't give you any data, but when you put it into the context of target accounts that you want to go for, then it makes a whole difference, right? Same with the content. So what content actually brought us these top accounts? So you can see you have 20, 30 pieces, but just this one actually brought us these clients. So this is, and when you try to measure this kind of data across whole database, and the companies and contacts are completely different, it's hard to take conclusions in this way, I would believe. So yeah, who is consuming? So we can see the form submissions. So how many actually interactions, time to close, I will go fast. What also is cool with HubSpot, if you don't have the consent, so they didn't convert it into your database, you can still use Albacross. So you can see what kind of companies actually visited you from the target accounts, and then you can measure that. Just HubSpot gives you this out of the box target account dashboard. So you can see how many target accounts you have, the deals that you have open, they closed, do you have decision makers there? You can see the last interactions. So you can go for all the accounts and see what are the last touch, which means I believe sales, and last engagement, which is marketing activities. And you can also see who actually of these companies interacted with you in any way. Plus this account overview. So what was mentioned by Alex, right? You can see, okay, who are my influencers, decision makers within these companies and internal stakeholders that work within those companies. That's a whole different perspective on attribution and tracking when you have a specific accounts in mind. And then for marketing and cover, right? From HubSpot, you can export the audiences. So you can say with LinkedIn that I want to actually target these accounts and I just do ads for these accounts. So once again, all the activities comes towards this specific set of target accounts, and you can track easily the results. You can do email. So whatever actions are specifically also the personalization, it's completely different and much easier to personalize with LinkedIn and with HubSpot when you have a specific audience in mind. And it just makes it easy to connect these kind of tools with HubSpot ads audiences. You can also go on LinkedIn per se, like directly, and see what are the companies that actually engaged with you. So this is like, you can double check it. But sadly, you cannot connect it directly with HubSpot. And then you have just hold the marketing hub, right? You can have all the emails and you can choose specific landing pages and do a smart content. So tailor landing pages towards your personas or companies that you want to go for. You have the easy option. This is really important, right? When you want to scale for ABM, you need sometimes to create 10 different or maybe 5 different landing pages towards specific segments or audiences, right? And when you add the infrastructure, you can just clone it, and it's much faster when you try to do it custom. It's hard to scale these kind of campaigns and you don't have this tech stack. Same goes with emails and, for example, chatbots, right? Chatbots, you can just segment the list, say all contacts from software houses, and I want to send them specific message while if they are from a specific segment, which is all out of the box from HubSpot. And then CMS. So as you can see on our website, we have revenue agency for B2B companies, but when it's software house, it actually says revenue operations agency for software houses. So this gives you additional like tool stack for embedding ABM into HubSpot. And there are plenty of different tools when it comes to that you can integrate with demand-based or G2, but it's or Rollworks, but it's a little bit different ballgame. I believe that starting with Alpacross, LinkedIn, just CMS, utilizing HubSpot is just a good start to do an ABM. And Alex for sure can say a bit more about it.
Great. Thanks for summarizing all those. I think they're super relevant. I do especially see more and more companies now doing the programmable emails, the personalization of their content, as well as not just purely A/B testing of pages, but rather than the smart testing, which allows you to test multiple pages at the same time and personalize them more for your target accounts. Specifically, companies and decision makers have come to expect. We live in the world where personalization is seen everywhere, and you should also consider bringing it into your B2B process as well. Just generally starting from scratch every time a user comes or a potential contact comes to your page is not a good experience, and definitely taking all the different data points that are already readily available, the integrations that HubSpot has with multiple other tools, and doing a multi-channel strategy, allowing yourself to work with those potential contacts through different channels and connect all the communication in one place is potentially what I think one of the greatest benefits of HubSpot. Just bringing it all in one place and having that history, that activity timeline in front of your eyes, understanding where happened what, where people interacted with ads, where they interacted with messages, and just generally building your strategy out of there as well. This is what decision makers are doing right now, expecting from you as a business as well. And it also translates into the trends that we should be looking forward to in the next few years. There needs to be a human-to-human engagement, human-to-human interaction, and that actually comes from this type of personalization that HubSpot actually already provides in the platform.
Yeah, muted, I think.
Great stuff. Yeah, I'm unmuted myself. I saw it. Good. We have a bunch of things. Definitely for someone to go deep into this, you will have the recording. So, and anytime you can find all of us on LinkedIn, reach out. And now, guys, I had some questions here already for the guys. I just want to put it here. And meanwhile, if you have some questions for the guys, please just bring it on. Just put it out there and I will make sure we are getting on this. So my biggest question is here noted down for Alex. So from all this tech stack and everything, now in HubSpot, what do you guys see as the main trends happening in B2B marketing, ABM, especially because we start to, and I want to go back to this idea of dark funnel. We have companies like ZoomInfo, which are doing a lot on intent. So they're trying to already tell you what kind of buying intent some particular companies have. Then we have Sixth Sense, who is also doing this by telling you even the buying intent based on the purchasing stage. So how do you guys see this as a trend, as where we are going with all the technology and B2B marketing?
Great question. We all need to consider the fact that to start any type of ABM marketing program within your organization, we already mentioned that, but let's repeat, you need a clean data infrastructure. You need to have proper contacts base that's understandable for all departments within your organization, and then defined ideal customers as well as buyers personas, so that once you start collecting what you just mentioned, information from Zoom, as well as Sales Navigator also provides purchasing intent, also recently noticed that, and all the other attributes, once you start bringing them in, you can assimilate them with the proper buyers personas, and then allow for your salespeople to make the right decisions and enter the conversation with the right information on hand. This has been specifically useful for myself. We are also using ZoomInfo within our organization to populate target accounts with the proper information, with information about their technology stack. All these data points are giving us tips on whether or not the potential contact would be interested in one of the tools that HubSpot is providing. And consider that it is a long sales cycle in B2B, and there are multiple decision makers. Again, there isn't just one place, there isn't just one software that would allow you to automate things and let it run by itself. So the trend here is definitely make use of all the available technologies out there to it's generally give as much insights to your salespeople as possible. This is the only way for them to do their job properly, and saving on those type of tools, I think puts them in a disadvantageous position, just because of how many things that can already be found online would provide them with the right information to sell. And seeing a lot of decision makers just trying to save on costs for this type of things makes me a bit sad, to be honest, just because it does make a difference when you sell, when you have that data in front of your eyes, also within HubSpot, once you start tracking that there as well. So we mentioned the clean data infrastructure. We mentioned the mapping of accounts that also comes with using such tools, getting a better understanding, not looking only at LinkedIn, where roles and positions are normally things that people just write by themselves. You have multiple CEOs within a company sometimes. So just combine all these different tools, as well as ZoomInfo, which does quite a good job on mapping accounts and better understanding who is who in that particular organization, who is a decision maker perhaps as well. And consider the fact that it's not a one-channel strategy. There is a multi-channel approach. And before you start doing ABM, you need to be ready with content, creative content. This is something that's quite hard to achieve nowadays. A lot of people just copying things already available. So once you start going into this direction, consider that for each buyer's persona, you would need some type of a different content, whether it's going to be just written content or video. I see a trend towards video. Although TikTok doesn't seem like a big channel, it just shows the trend of short videos being super useful for sales in general. Reutilizing content that you have already created, breaking it down into smaller pieces, maybe even just without any actual voice behind it. Consider the fact that most videos are muted online. So just breaking it down, creating short pieces of videos would be something that even B2B companies maybe need to look into as well. Something that I'm noticing works more and more. And the good documentation is definitely something that has been missing so far. Once you integrate all the systems, going back to your salespeople and asking whether or not they actually filled in the information. This is a manual process. This is something that a champion needs to do on their own within the organization, and just make sure that from that 6 months after the integration that we already saw on one of the slides, that you go back to those sales and marketing people and you ask them to fill in the data entry points, so that your reporting is understandable and actually appropriate, rather than expecting them to do it. And in the end of the day, we even saw it in one of the attribution screenshots, where we had multiple leads and then multiple, let's say, qualified leads, but then very minimal MQL, SQLs, and then opportunities. So what I'm noticing salespeople are doing is they're only putting in information in the CRM once that becomes an opportunity. They're skipping a few points in the process just because they don't feel like that reporting is going to represent them well or in a good light. They don't want to have a bet ratio between SQL to opportunity. So they are not going to put that into the CRM until they feel comfortable. This kind of mindset you have to delete. It's hurting the business. It's hurting your understanding of what works and what doesn't, I think. And of course, as I mentioned, multi-channel.
I just want to go into one question that Christian had before we close in, just because I have a call after this with actually Marika, who is here. So I hear, Christian, you want to come and put your question? I can let you talk if you want. I can allow you. You can decide if you want to. But the question is a lot around this idea of, yeah, Christian, you're unmuted yourself. Please feel free
Thank
to
you.
put the question.
Yeah. Thank you guys for the webinar. Just my question is, how do you put this action into practice for expansion, like the second land and expand idea, so that really help grow the accounts once you've landed them to continue? Say that you land a major shipping company, just and you pull a random example and be like, okay, we really see potential with growing the use of our product or service in this company. We really want to grow there. How do you do that?
I may take it. So basically, being completely honest, there is no great infrastructure for supporting that by default, like with Purpose. Super on that when it comes to HubSpot. This is just my perspective. There are tools, for example, like Revgy, which you can map out all the potential opportunities with your account. What's the risk? You can map out all the activities that are connected with this account, and you can bring all the people, because it's not just sales that works on the account, right? It's project managers, it's some consultants, and there are a lot of stakeholders internally, and it's also a project management then case. So tools like Revgy lets you identify these kind of potential opportunities with those accounts, plan these, and manage, which is quite complex, and it's super expensive. Maybe not super expensive, but for what you get is like 40K euros or something at least. And you got just a project management tool. When it comes to the HubSpot, you would need to map out your process and use just what's there out of the box, meaning custom fields. What you can expand with is custom objects. So you can create these custom objects to connect certain new elements to these accounts and automations around it, new lead statuses. So basically, you would need to use the same tools you get for the acquisition, but angle them towards customer success.
Okay. Could you spell that program you were talking about? Ravage.
Revgy, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Cool, guys. Awesome stuff here. Thanks a lot. I need to quit mainly because I need to have at least 5 minutes break before jumping into a new call. So biological need. So basically, if you have questions, guys, thanks a lot. Just put them in. Next, actually in 2 weeks, we are having a very nice webinar on the idea of B2B brand positioning. So I can show you actually, here it is. No, not here. This one. Yeah. Positioning. George is coming. We will talk a lot about this idea of brand positioning, why positioning, how the positioning works, practical examples from SurveyK. And we have a bunch of resources for you guys. So we are already preparing here the whole presentation. So great person to pick the brain is George. Join us. And we talk also a lot about this dark social and the dark funnel, how important it is when we talk about positioning. So thanks a lot for now. We will share. The recording is already on my LinkedIn profile. So if you're connected with me, just go in there. And on email, I will write here my email. So any questions, just drop them in regarding the bonuses and so on and so forth. We are happy to help. Alex, you're also on LinkedIn. You can find him. Also Patrick, Shemek. So we are in touch. Ciao. Thanks a lot, guys. Patrick, Alex, Shemek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.